Have you ever noticed how, like, the really massive, world-altering shifts almost never announce themselves with some big dramatic
Oh,
explosion?
for sure. It's never like a movie.
Right. It's not a movie. They sneak up on you. They're usually buried deep inside some random Wednesday afternoon news update, just sandwiched right there
Mhm.
between a sports score and a local weather alert.
Yeah, and you just scroll right past it.
Exactly. You scroll past it and you completely miss the fact that the entire foundation of the global economy just, well, shifted right under your feet.
I mean, I'd say it is basically the defining problem of the information age at this point. We aren't lacking data anymore. We are drowning in it.
Oh, entirely drowning.
And when a massive geopolitical crisis, a major tech breakthrough, and your local traffic update all hit your phone with the exact same notification ping, your brain just, it really struggles to assign the right weight to any of it.
The signal just gets completely lost in the noise,
Exactly.
which is exactly the problem we are going to solve for you today. Welcome to the deep dive. We are taking a massive stack of these complex, seemingly disconnected daily updates, and we're just distilling them down to the absolute essentials.
Kind of cutting through the static.
Yep. Today, our source material is the 4 p.m. news brief published by the Daily Tech Reader, and the date on this is Wednesday, July 8th, 2026.
And, on the surface, this document is just a really dense, bulleted list. It covers global markets, artificial intelligence, physical infrastructure.
International diplomacy, science, culture, it's a lot.
It is. If you try to read it straight through, it kind of gives you intellectual whiplash.
Yeah, but our mission today is to take all those scattered puzzle pieces and snap them together. We are going to build a unified, clear picture of where the world actually stands in the summer of 2026. And more importantly, decode what it means for you.
Because it does mean a lot for the individual listener.
Definitely. Now, just a quick piece of housekeeping before we jump into the deep end here. This brief touches on some very real, ongoing geopolitical tensions.
Right? Some heavy stuff.
Yeah, we're talking updates on military operations in Ukraine, complex diplomatic and security developments in the Middle East, and ongoing border security issues in the U.S. So our goal today is entirely analytical.
We're just looking at the data.
Exactly. We are going to impartially report on this information exactly as it's presented in the source material, just to understand the broader global landscape. We are not taking political sides here. We're simply looking at the board as it is currently set.
And that objective lens is crucial, honestly, because we really want to understand the underlying mechanisms at play. Like, we need to look at how a semiconductor supply chain issue might, suddenly influence a diplomatic negotiation.
Or how a local power grid failure impacts global AI development, right? Everything is connected.
It really is.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the absolute loudest drumbeat in the business and tech sections of this July 2026 briefing. Artificial intelligence.
Yeah, the big one.
But, and I think you'll agree with this, if you've been following the news over the last couple of years, you immediately notice that the tone has fundamentally changed. The brief makes it super clear. The honeymoon is over.
What's fascinating here is that the era of the party trick AI is officially dead, like completely done,
Thank goodness.
right? The brief highlights this massive shift in corporate strategy. Organizations are no longer buying AI platforms just to mess around with them or to show off to their shareholders on a quarterly call.
Right, it's not a novelty anymore.
Exactly. The driving forces now are, and I'm quoting here, operational maturity and measurable business value. The wild speculative rush has just matured into this really disciplined, rigorous integration of AI into the core plumbing of business operations.
The best way I can visualize this is, well, it's kind of like looking at the history of electricity.
Okay, how so?
Like back in the late 1800s, electricity was a novelty, right?
Sure.
People would literally go to public demonstrations just to watch a light bulb turn on. It was magic.
Sure, it was a spectacle.
But then, by the 1920s, no one cared about the light bulb itself anymore. They just expected the refrigerator to keep their milk cold. They expected the assembly line to keep moving.
Ah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it feels like AI has gone from being that flashy concept car at the auto show to, like, the reliable minivan you use to get groceries. Businesses don't care about the magic anymore. They just want to know its gas mileage. Or in this case, its measurable productivity gains.
That is a great way to frame it. And productivity really is the undisputed king of technology purchasing right now. It's no longer about deploying an AI that can write a quirky poem in the voice of a pirate.
Right. Nobody cares about the pirate poems anymore.
Right. It is about deploying what the brief calls AI agents.
Mm-hmm.
Agents that can autonomously handle production workloads. And we should probably define that term because it's vital.
Yeah, what exactly constitutes a production workload?
Well, production workload means the software is running live, customer-facing, or mission-critical business processes. So if an AI drafts a bad email and you, the human, catch it before sending, that's an experiment. But if an AI agent autonomously misroutes 10,000 cargo containers in a live global logistics network,
Oh, wow. That's a disaster.
exactly, that is a catastrophic failure in a production workload.
Which completely explains why the brief specifically notes that reliability increasingly distinguishes leading AI platforms. Like
Right.
you actually want the system to be boring. Boring, predictable, and incredibly safe.
You absolutely do.
Yeah.
And we are seeing this exact demand for reliability reshaping software engineering from the ground up. The brief details how AI coding assistants are fundamentally altering how software is built today.
Right, developers aren't just typing out every single line by hand anymore.
No, not at all. They are using these AI assistants to generate, test, and deploy code at a scale that was frankly unimaginable just 3 years ago.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. But because they're generating so much code so fast, the underlying AI models have to be highly reliable, or the entire software ecosystem just collapses under the weight of its own bugs.
So we have this massive shift. AI has moved from this fluffy cloud of hype down into the gritty reality of everyday business plumbing. It's writing code, managing supply chains, acting as autonomous agent.
Doing all the heavy lifting.
Right. But if AI is doing all of this heavy, continuous lifting for millions of companies across the globe, where is the physical engine for all this digital work?
Yes, the physical footprint.
This actually takes us to the second major theme of the brief, which, I'll be honest, completely caught me off guard.
Really?
Yeah, because the biggest tech story of 2026 isn't really a software story at all. It's a construction and energy story.
It's true. The illusion of the cloud is finally breaking. We've used that term for so long that people subconsciously assume digital infrastructure is weightless, like it's just invisible data floating in the sky.
Literally a cloud.
Right. But the cloud is actually made of thousands of tons of concrete, specialized steel, highly advanced silicon, and massive, massive amounts of electricity. The computational power required to run all these enterprise AI agents is forcing a literal physical terraforming of our landscape. Data center construction is expanding aggressively across multiple regions. Infrastructure spending is actually leading enterprise IT budgets now.
Okay, I actually need to stop you there and push back on this a little bit because something just isn't adding up for me.
Okay, what's missing?
Well, I'm looking at my laptop right now, and tech companies have spent, the last 5 years bragging about how efficient their new microchips are. Every new phone promises more processing power using less battery.
That's true. Chips have gotten incredibly efficient.
So if the silicon itself is getting dramatically more efficient, why is the Daily Tech Reader describing an absolute energy crisis driven by AI data centers? Like, why are utilities scrambling?
It's a great question. It comes down to the fundamental mechanism of how AI actually processes information compared to traditional computing.
Okay, walk me through that.
Think about a traditional Google search from a decade ago. When you type in a query, the server essentially acts like a librarian. It goes to an index, finds the right digital document, and retrieves it for you.
You ask for a file, it hands you a file. Simple.
Right. And that process requires a very small, brief spike of electricity. But an AI agent isn't retrieving a file. It is generating something entirely new.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, when you ask a complex AI model to synthesize a report or write a piece of software, it is performing continuous inference. It's running complex probability calculations across hundreds of billions of parameters in real time.
And that takes a lot of juice.
An incredibly energy-intensive mathematical process. Now multiply that by millions of autonomous agents doing this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Oh, wow.
Furthermore, the brief mentions multimodal AI. This means the AI isn't just reading text anymore. It's simultaneously processing live video feeds, audio streams, spatial data.
And video is heavy.
Exactly. Processing video requires exponentially more compute power than text. So even with highly efficient chips, the sheer volume and complexity of the math being done has just overwhelmed the grid.
So it's not just a quick spike in demand, it's a permanent, massive increase in the baseline amount of electricity required just to keep the modern economy functioning at all.
Precisely.
Which completely explains this next detail in the brief. It highlights a massive, renewed investment in nuclear energy.
Yeah, utilities are realizing that solar and wind, while obviously crucial parts of the energy mix, they're intermittent. The sun goes down, the wind stops blowing.
But the AI data center cannot be turned off.
Never. It requires what we call baseload power, a massive, uninterrupted 247 supply of electricity. And nuclear energy is one of the only carbon-free ways to generate that kind of steady, immense power.
So we're seeing a nuclear renaissance.
Yes, running parallel to massive investments in battery storage deployment, really just to keep the digital lights on.
Which means long-term energy planning and long-term technology planning are no longer two separate conversations.
Not at all.
They are the exact same conversation. Like, you cannot dominate in software if you can't secure the concrete, the high-voltage cables, and the uranium.
That's the reality. The physical constraints have become the primary bottleneck for digital growth. And, whenever physical resources like advanced semiconductors, power grids, data center land become the most valuable assets in the global economy, they instantly become national security priorities.
Right, which transitions us perfectly out of the tech sector and onto the geopolitical chessboard. If AI leadership dictates your economic survival, then protecting that infrastructure is paramount.
Absolutely.
The brief lists cybersecurity as a top operational priority across the board. It even notes that hiring for security roles remains highly resilient, even while other tech sectors are seeing layoffs.
Because a successful cyber attack on an AI data center in 2026 isn't just a data breach anymore, it's the equivalent of shutting down a major factory or severing a critical supply chain.
Governments have to treat it like a physical threat.
Yeah, that they are actively treating AI supremacy and digital defense as core pillars of their geopolitical strategy now.
And while the digital borders are being fortified, the physical borders and traditional geopolitical flashpoints remain incredibly tense. The July 8th update touches on NATO actively monitoring European security, the ongoing military operations between Ukraine and Russia, and energy markets keeping a very close eye on the Middle East.
It is a profoundly delicate global balance. And to really understand this July update, we have to look at the broader context of the preceding months.
Right, the historical context.
Yeah, the Daily Tech Reader's popular posts archive from May and June of 2026 paints this vivid picture of just how volatile things are and how quickly the landscape shifts.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because if we rewind just a few weeks to late May 2026, the big story was U.S.-Iran peace talks reaching a tentative agreement regarding the Strait of Hormuz.
A huge deal for energy markets.
Huge. And that context is vital because it explains why our July brief notes that oil and natural gas markets are actually relatively stable right now, despite all the other global tensions. A critical shipping lane was diplomatically secured.
Right.
But then, just days later, in early June, federal authorities uncover a massive 2,000-foot drug tunnel connecting Mexico to the U.S.
It perfectly illustrates the duality of modern statecraft, doesn't it?
It really does.
You have these high-level sophisticated diplomatic negotiations successfully stabilizing global energy markets on one side of the planet, while simultaneously dealing with raw, physical border security challenges on another.
The threat vectors are literally coming from everywhere.
Yes.
Cyberspace, traditional military theaters, and literal underground tunnels.
Everything happening all at once.
And my absolute favorite piece of historical context from that archive happened on June 1st, 2026. Florida became the first state to formally sue OpenAI over ChatGPT safety failures.
Oh.
And fast forward a little over a month to our July 8th brief, and the business section explicitly notes that AI governance frameworks continue maturing and medical AI oversight continued evolving. That Florida lawsuit wasn't just a headline. It was the mechanism that actually forced the change.
Because lawsuits are incredibly effective forcing functions.
Yeah, they make things happen.
Before a lawsuit, AI safety is largely just this theoretical debate handled by engineers and ethicists behind closed doors. But the moment a state government files suit, it triggers the legal discovery process.
No, and nobody wants that.
Nobody. Tech companies are forced to open their black boxes, explain their safety protocols under oath, and face actual financial and operational penalties.
That legal friction is what forces the maturity.
Exactly. The threat of litigation turns abstract safety guidelines into rigid compliance requirements.
But you know what? Here's the most jarring takeaway from reading all of these updates together. We have lawsuits over AI, massive drug tunnels, global military operations, and this unprecedented strain on the electrical grid. Yet the brief notes that global economic activity remains steady.
It's resilient.
Advanced manufacturing is expanding. International shipping is supporting worldwide commerce. The markets just keep humming along.
The global economy has developed a remarkable callousness to volatility. I mean, the market has fundamentally decided that this structural shift toward AI-driven productivity is so powerful that it just outweighs the geopolitical noise.
That's incredible.
However, the anxiety is still visible if you know where to look in the asset classes.
Where do we see it?
Well, the brief notes that gold is reflecting geopolitical caution. Investors are still hedging their bets with a tangible historical safe haven. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is hovering near its recent trading ranges, which indicates it hasn't fully captured that safe haven status in this particular crisis cycle.
Interesting. So the real aggressive capital is flowing almost entirely into companies that can demonstrate profitable AI strategies.
Exactly. That's where the focus is.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the concrete foundations of data centers to the geopolitical chess games happening in Europe and the Middle East. But I want to pivot and focus entirely on you, the listener.
The most important part.
Because all of these macroeconomic shifts eventually trickle down to human culture, our health, and the way we work on a daily basis.
The human element is the final and really the most crucial layer of this brief. When we look at the science and health sections, the dichotomy is just staggering.
In what way?
On one hand, AI is accelerating scientific discovery at a blistering pace. It's driving advancements in precision medicine, synthesizing new protein structures for drug discovery, pushing the boundaries of fusion energy research.
We'll even have NASA actively planning the Artemis missions and continuing complex Mars exploration.
Right. We are mapping the stars and designing custom medicines with supercomputers. But then, right next to those incredible breakthroughs, the brief drops this deeply humbling bullet point. Healthcare workforce shortages persisted.
Wow, yeah.
We have AI capable of mapping a patient's genome in record time, but we don't have enough human nurses to physically check their vitals or administer the medication.
If we think about that, it's crazy.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it exposes the ultimate paradox of 2026. We are advancing our synthetic technological capabilities at light speed, but we are still violently constrained by biological reality.
Because AI cannot turn a patient in a hospital bed.
It cannot. AI cannot fix the fact that intense European summer heat is physically damaging agriculture and infrastructure. Public health agencies are still battling seasonal illnesses and staffing crises. The physical reality of being human has not been solved by a better algorithm.
So what does this all mean for the human worker? How do we fit into an economy that values AI productivity above literally everything else?
Well, the brief provides a really clear roadmap for this. It notes that hybrid work patterns remain stable, meaning the physical office isn't dead, it's just been rearranged.
Okay, good to know.
But the most important line in the entire work section is about hiring. It states that hiring is increasingly skills-based, and that continuous learning remained a competitive advantage.
And that is the direct result of AI, coding assistants, and enterprise agents taking over the foundational work, isn't it?
Absolutely. The half-life of a learned skill is shrinking dramatically. Like 5 years ago, knowing a very specific programming syntax or complex accounting formula basically guaranteed you a job.
You were set.
Today,
Yeah.
an AI agent can execute that syntax perfectly in 3 seconds. The market no longer values the rote memorization of a process.
So what does it value?
The value now lies entirely in your adaptability. Your ability to orchestrate these various AI tools, to spot patterns across different disciplines, and to solve novel, ambiguous problems that the AI hasn't been trained on yet.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? It means that credentialism relying solely on a degree you earned a decade ago is fading. Adaptability is the new currency.
It really is.
In fact, the very fact that you are listening to this deep dive right now, taking the time to digest the macroeconomic and technological shifts of July 2026, is the exact definition of continuous learning. You are actively updating your own internal software to ensure you remain the most valuable asset in the room.
And it is vital that humans retain that value. Because the brief also shows us that technology cannot fulfill our need for connection.
Right, it has limits.
Even as AI heavily influences creative work and music production, the brief explicitly notes that technology is seen as complementing creative expression, not replacing it. The tools are generating the baseline, but but the human soul is still required for the final product.
You really see that hunger for real experience in the cultural updates too. Like the World Cup is absolutely dominating global sports coverage. Summer travel is incredibly active.
People want to be out there.
Yeah, live entertainment attendance is healthy. People are flocking to stadiums in the heat, going to crowded summer movies, traveling across the globe. It seems like the more digital and synthetic our workflows become during the week, the more desperately we crave shared, physical, messy human experiences on the weekend.
It's a necessary psychological rebalancing, I think. If we are outsourcing operational excellence and raw productivity to AI agents, it frees up our human cognitive load.
We have more mental space.
Right. We're seeking out the things AI can simulate but can never actually experience. The tension of a live penalty kick at the World Cup, the exhaustion of travel, the shared energy of a live concert.
That makes perfect sense. Let's pull all these threads together to summarize what the daily Tech Reader's 4 p.m. update is really telling us about Wednesday, July 8th, 2026. The overriding theme of this summer is disciplined execution.
Execution is everything.
The flashy AI hype cycle has evaporated, and it's been replaced by a ruthless corporate demand for measurable business value, operational maturity, and hyper-reliable systems.
And to support that massive digital ambition, the world is undergoing a historic physical transformation. The cloud is being grounded in reality, demanding unprecedented data center construction, a renaissance in nuclear power, and massive grid modernization.
A heavy lift.
And all of this physical and digital expansion is happening against the backdrop of severe geopolitical tension, military conflicts, and legal battles over AI governance. Yet, driven by continuous innovation, the global economy just continues to push forward.
The narrative that the tech world exists only in software is completely dead. The tech world is pouring millions of tons of concrete just to keep the AI agents running.
Which raises an important question, though, and it is something I really want to leave the listener to ponder today.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've established that AI agents are now successfully managing production workloads, and that for humans, continuous learning is our ultimate competitive advantage to stay relevant. But if AI coding assistants are fundamentally reshaping software engineering today, basically accelerating their own operational efficiency, how long until those AI systems master the art of continuous learning themselves?
Oh, wow.
In a world where AI becomes the self-improving foundation of all business, what will uniquely human expertise even look like by the end of this decade?
That is a staggering thought to leave on. As the machine learns how to learn faster than we do, we really have to deeply examine what it means to be the human in the loop. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep updating your skills, stay adaptable, and most importantly, stay curious.
Absolutely.
And remember, the next time you feel like you're standing in front of a chaotic fire hose of daily news, don't let it overwhelm you. Look for the concrete being poured underneath it. We'll catch you next time.